Now we go to Daniel. We know that Daniel was at the time of the destruction of the first temple, and Daniel also was there at the time of Esther and Mordechai. We only know that because, again, the Zohar tells us that the word hatach, or as we know it to be a code name for kahat, as that word which is mentioned up there, kahat, is a code name for Daniel. So we know that he was also at the time of Purim. In chapter 8, it says in verse 1, in the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar, the King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, says Daniel. And he repeats, Ani Daniel, and I am Daniel, and this is me that is talking. And I saw in the vision, I was in Shushan, the castle, or the Shushan Habirah, which was at that time the main city, which was in Elam. At that time, it wasn't even referred to yet as Elam. And I was sitting near the stream called Ulai. I lifted up my eyes, and I saw before me, stood before the stream, a ram. A ram. The Aries, the ram, which had 2 horns. I haven't seen a ram with 1 horn yet, unless it's, it's an abnormal ram, so maybe it can have one horn. I'm quoting in chapter 8. And there were 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. One was higher than the other. All the commentators, when they are discussing the horns, are obviously, does Daniel have to come and tell us about 2 horns? Are we interested? Wouldn't we understand that a ram has 2 horns? And then it's important to know that one was a little higher than the other. And all the commentators on this particular verse say that it's talking about Persia, Paras, because already it became known as Paras in the time of Ezekiel, and also Madai, which is Iraq. And they say that the horn, which was higher, represents, this is the commentators, again, out of a coded message, this is what sages can do. Like Rabbi Shimon and others can read into these words, and by their divine inspiration, channeling information, they know how to decipher, to decodify what is written. Because what is written certainly doesn't say what they're saying. Although we have many questions about his dream. I mean, it's so silly. But what they meant was, one was higher, meaning Persia was higher than Iraq, than Babylonia. All right? And the higher came up last. There were 2 horns, one higher than the other, and the higher came up last. What do you mean? Okay, that's what he says. The higher came up last. What does it mean? Also say the sages that first there would be an Iraq, and then there would be a Persian. That happened at the time of Mordechai and Esther. There was first an Iraq, Babylonia, Nebuchadnezzar, and then he was defeated by the first Cyrus. He was defeated by the first Cyrus. And then Persia came up. It rose second or last. He still didn't finish his dream yet. Oh, he's now describing what the dream was. Ra'iti et ha'ayel menageach yama v'tzofona v'negba. And I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward. Not eastward. Was it me? 3 directions. 3 directions to tell us that the force and power of Persia extended then in these directions, not the other way. The other way, eastward, would of course be China and so on. That would be eastward. No, it would be pushing westward. And furthermore, he says, "V'kol hachayot lo yamdu lefanav," and no beast can stand before him. Neither could anyone deliver themselves out of his hand. Ve'ein matzil miyado. Va'asa kitzono v'higdil. And the force would be so strong that there was no one that could stand up against him. The dream is still going on, but we don't want to miss every part that the sages are discussing. Again, is he discussing a point in history, or is he teaching us the future as well as the past and present? As we know, where did Rabbi Shimon get his information? As you know, Rabbi Shimon mentions, and I forgot for the moment where it is, but I will find it again, that at the end of days, as in the past, this already happened. The Persian Empire extended east, west, and north. That's already an historical fact. And then the Persian Empire was destroyed by Alexander the Great, who was the ruler over the Greek Empire. Is that what Daniel wants to tell us? No. Because according to the Zohar, Daniel and all of Daniel is discussing the age of Mashiach. As you know, Daniel and a little of Ezekiel are the only books of prophets, but more so Daniel, that is written in Aramaic. Written in Aramaic, an old language. Is Aramaic a part of the Jewish language? If anyone thinks that it's only spoken in Kurdistan, making a mistake, because the whole Talmud was written in Aramaic. So this is not reserved just to a part of Persia. The entire Talmud. Not only the entire Talmud, we might even include the entire Zohar, was also written in Aramaic. Does that mean they were writing according to the language of the day? No, because they use the Hebrew language. Remember, language has sounds. A bet, b, bet, b. Well, you can call it b, you can call it bet. But the Hebrew language was used in the Talmud and in the Zohar. And Daniel, about 85% of Daniel is written in Aramaic. This is written not just merely to record history, but this is a complete message coded, which the Zohar interpreted and drew most of its information. And in the Zohar, it says that from Persia, in the end of days, hello? Getting back to the Zohar, the Zohar takes out from this idea that the ram, not an ox, not a goat, and we'll soon come to the goat, but it could be a lion. I mean, it could have been any other animal. The ram, says the Zohar, that at the end of days, and it's obvious where we are now, even I return to the idea of the two rams, which I didn't, two horns. It was inevitable that Iran and Iraq will always be at odds with each other. Always be at odds with each other. Daniel forecasted that. Not only then, if we only listen to Saddam Hussein, he said, "Who am I? Nebuchadnezzar." I mean, could he be more clear? Yet 2% of the people picked it up. Because we don't listen. We don't listen what's being said. History always repeats itself. And what Daniel is telling us, and more importantly, for our day. For our day. Because again, Persia will go forth. And the Zohar confirmed it when he said that the last king of the Muslims will be the king of Persia. It makes it so clear. Now, he's written this 2,000 years ago. And he didn't tell it to us just to make life interesting. He's trying to give us a message. Well, what's the message? You mean just that we know now what... I know now how history will unfold. Is that what's important? No. No. The Zohar always provides us with the track, the cassette of events, and tells us what is going to happen. It tells us when the Mashiach makes its appearance, what we should expect. We have signs. We will know when he makes his appearance. There will be signs. And terrible things will happen. Why is the Zohar telling us? All right, so terrible things will happen, so let's all sit back and wait for the terrible things to happen. No. The reason the Zohar mentions these specific ideas is to tell us we can do something about it. We can do something about it. Not let it happen the way it should. And more importantly today, we see, I should say not in the Western world, unfortunately, not yet, but there is only one danger left for human civilization. What Daniel said. These people from Persia, we can say maybe the Shiites, will go out spread their religion, their brand of religion, all over the world, and as they are presently doing, including the United States, because only a few weeks ago there was an article in Newsweek of the quiet conversion of Christians to Islam. Would you ever believe that a Western mentality can convert to Islam? That there is a tremendous growth. Has it gone north? Yes. What will topple Russia ultimately is what's happening, and they're afraid of it. The enormous, this tremendous population of Shiites within the Republic of Russia, the southern part, or north of Persia. And Daniel is telling us it's wrapped up with the ram. It's wrapped up with the ram. Why did he choose a ram? He could have just given us a description without using the ram. Tell us 2 nations. Instead of putting so much in code, why didn't he make it clear to us? Because he wanted to include more than the description. Because when he used the word ram and 2 horns, he's also giving us a clue about the ram. There is 2 parts to Pesach. That's why this Passover, to me, will probably be the most significant Pesach since Rabbi Shimon. Because so much has happened in such a short period of time, and tomorrow Persia can take 2 roads. It can take the road as designated when it says Ra'iti et ayal minagach. You know what that means? He gores. It's not, he's goring. Goring. You know what an ox gores with his horns. Out to destroy, like a bullet, the expression, a bull in a china shop, to destroy everything in front of it. That is the objective. Now we know on Pesach we converted the ram. We converted the power of the ram. How? We took the force of Aviv. We think, well, one of the significant aspects of Pesach is to burn the lamb. Burn the lamb. But we don't have the burning of the lamb. They burnt the lamb then. Is that all they did? When they burnt the lamb, took the blood, sprinkled, they slaughtered it, burnt it, and then they sprinkled the doorposts with the buck, and that was what brought freedom. No. Again, what brought freedom was not the fact that they had burnt the lamb and sprinkled the blood, had converted the lamb, burnt the lamb, as you learn from the tapes on Pesach, and it is true, we must convert that desire to receive for the self alone, which is the Aries. But how do you do that? How do you do that? You take the idea of spring, and that's why the Torah forgets about Pesach, forgets about the lamb, and only says one word: Shamor et ha-chodesh haviv. This is the month. This is the month. Av Yud Bet. What does spring mean in Hebrew? How do you say spring in Hebrew? Aviv. Why is it spelled Aviv? Why couldn't they use the word candy? to describe spring. Why? Aviv. In English we say, well, it means spring because everything springs out, comes forth. But in Hebrew, why did they give the word Aviv? So most of you know, because it means Av Yud Bet, the father of the 12 months. In other words, if the next 12 months are to produce things of such a nature that we will not even believe can happen, it is our opportunity now to control it. That king of Persia is going to go out, and he will be the only one who will succeed again in ruling over Israel. No nation in the world will ever control Israel ever again. You don't have to worry. No nation is going to rule, even rule for a day, over Israel. The Persian king, it says, will rule for 12 months. I mean, Rabbi Shimon, you could write 12 months and a half, 13 months. Rabbi Shimon, maybe 11 months. Why are you being so specific? 12 months. Maybe 11, maybe 13, maybe 15. How is he so specific? Because Rabbi Shimon is also giving us the message. When we speak of control, again, we never mean control in a negative way. When we speak of control, we are discussing how we can control the cosmos, that the light becomes manifest. We can't control the world for evil. See what happens? Someone who wants to rain destruction on the world takes a fast. A month, 2, that's all they give him for evil. Evil no longer is going to take 10 years like it used to, or 20 years. No such thing. But we have the opportunity to convert that evil aspect, when it exists in the world, only in Aviv, only on Pesach. It's the only time. On Rosh Hashanah, the only thing we can control is our own lives. Therefore, it's called Rosh Hashanah for the individual. The individual wants good health. That's the time to ensure good health. He wants to have an easy life with less problems. When? Rosh Hashanah. But if we're discussing war, blood, negativity in the world, which we are all going to be affected one way or another by its consequences, there is only one time, says the Torah, Shamor et Chodesh Aviv. Observe this month. What do you mean observe it? You mean watch it? Shamor also means to watch. So I've discussed that at length. Like it says, one who is a Shomer Shabbat, an observer. It's not true. Shomer means to watch. I discussed that in Kabbalah connection, how the corruption of words came about. You know, when you're Shomer Shabbat, you're a Sabbath observer. What do? You observe it like you observe the star? One who observes the stars in the sky is called an observer. So what are you supposed to do on Shabbat? Watch the Shabbat go by. Observe it. Is that what it means? That's the instrument. That's the instrument. That's the significance. Watch it. Not observe it. Shamor or shomer. You know what a shomer means? One who watches over something. Watch it. Take advantage of it. Use it. Because it is the only tool that we have. And unfortunately, it comes in its most intensified state on Pesach. During the year, we try to take advantage of other cosmic events that can assist us, but nothing will alter the course of history as Pesach can. And there are so few Jews in the world that understand it. Most of the Jews know that. What is Pesach? The family gathering. How even that was so corrupted. Family gathering. I mean, why'd you get together the other 53 weeks of the year? Why gather together one day of the year? Get together 53 days of the year if you really want to be a family unit. No, one day of the year at least. This is the year. Why? So that the significance of what's going on, the Satan, it's purely Satan. He works it out so that we'll be satisfied with just sitting with our families together and then observe the year go by without having been able to do anything about it. We are literally so close, and it all depends on what we do. That's why Pesach is so important to us, and everyone should participate. Everyone should participate.